Greetings, race fans, and welcome back to today's top split action from the Radical Esports Cup, presented by RaceSpotTV. J.R. Gregory here with you on the call, along with my partner, Racing Ron Mons, and our producer, Ramiro Agustin Cisneros. And as 2025 Season 4 rolls on, Week 3 takes us to Imola, and the Enzo and Dino Ferrari International Circuit is located outside Bologna, Italy. Opened in 1953, originally as a motorcycle track, and this iconic track is current host to Formula One, the World Endurance Championship, and the European Le Mans Series. Today's configuration: 3 miles, 4.9 kilometers, 19 corners, and the record of 1:15.484 was set in 2020 by Sir Lewis Hamilton. And Ron, this season's schedule takes us to 7 past or present Formula One circuits, plus some classic endurance venues. And like many of these others, Imola really lets these radicals shine.
Oh, Imola is an absolutely fantastic track for these cars, but one that we haven't seen too much of over the past couple of years. You know, I think the last time that we saw Imola be used here in the Radical Esports Cup was at the very earliest, back in Season 1. It just doesn't get a lot of use in this series, but really excited to see it be a part of a rather diverse calendar here for Season 4 of 2025. You look at the tracks that lie ahead: Belle Isle, Portimao for week number 5, Zandvoort, Mid-Ohio, the Hockenheim Ring, Monza, Watkins Glen, Le Mans, and Road Atlanta to bring this 12-week season to a conclusion. A very odd schedule, so to speak. A lot of tracks that we either haven't seen in quite some time or have never seen here in the Radical Esports Cup. Belle Isle, very much going to be an interesting race along with Le Mans, but here at Imola for week number 3, these racers still looking to get their bearings straight in this brand new season and looking to kick off the month of October strong here in these 2100 GMT broadcasted races.
Nice looking schedule and a nice mix. And here are our Season 4 standings after 2 rounds, and Andreas Friedrich is going to lead the way. Pretty comfortable lead currently over Heinz Braun. Peter Avani will round out your podium. Then it's Caruso, Blanco, Havard Gurlikson, George Gonzaga, Lucas Vieira, Guillem Barend, and David Piazza to round out the top 10. But yeah, Ron, that schedule really fascinating, crafted in large part by the members of this Radical community. It's a beautiful mix of Formula One circuits, IndyCar circuits, and classic endurance circuits. And wouldn't it be a hoot if they ran these Radicals on the original Cirque du Sarthe without those pesky chicanes? But qualifying well underway here. We'll take a look at how qualifying is going so far, and there it is right now as time ticks down. It's Barron from Ivani, from James Berry, from Andreas Friedrich, from Sykes is your top 5, and the rest of the list there. And as qualifying winds down here, I'd like to remind everyone that this is not a private or league event. We are broadcasting the iRacing officials here, 2100 GMT, as we do every Friday. So if you would like to give these Radicals a whirl, practice up, show up, and sign up. And if you make the top split, you can appear both on RaceSpotTV and the official iRacing YouTube channel alongside some of the best Radical drivers in the world. And as we ride along with Rafa Blanco, whoop, look at that little wiggle right there. Variante Alta, that is going to be a sight of a lot of action here this afternoon, Ron.
Oh, that chicane is brutal in these SR10s. We talk about it a lot in these broadcasts. Really, whenever we're broadcasting Radical SR10s on the RaceSpotTV YouTube channel, we talk about the curbs and the relationship that these cars have with them. I can't even say it's a love-hate relationship. I think it's just a toxic relationship, frankly. These curbs, these cars do not like the curbs one bit. You gotta hit them, though, around this racetrack, especially heading off through that chicane. It's basically one of those parts of the racetrack where I wouldn't necessarily say it's a give up and settle situation. You just kind of have to take a brave pill and hope to God you can come out the other side of it with slightly clean pants. Even with that slideways moment coming out of there, it's still very sketchy that we just saw there a few moments ago with your Season 2 champion here in the Radical Esports Cup of Rafa Blanco, currently qualified in P16 at the moment here in this race. We have had a change up at the front, though, as Guillem Barend, off the back of a win last time at the Nordschleife, currently holds on to P3 in the number 3 car, with Peter Avani in the number 10, and James Berry currently making up your front row. Nice to see Berry back out there on the racetrack.
Yeah, always great to see James, and with any luck, we'll get him up here in the booth after the race to share his race experience. He's always really good at sharing his insights. But it looks like qualifying winding down here, and here is your starting grid. It is Peter Ivani up front in pole. Will line up next to Sebastian Lipp. Behind them will be Barry and Berend. In row 3, it's Rudolf Nagel and Mehmet Akas in 5 and 6. And then it's Andreas Friedrich lined up next to Paki Caruso in 9 and 10. It's Simon Sykes next to Michelle Bonalumi. And then Franco Sanchez will line up next to Sauli Reitinen in row 6. And then it's Heinz Braun next to George Gonzaga. Oscar Pesavento will line up next to Jarrett Dunkovic in 15 and 16. Rafa Blanco, uncharacteristically down the grid today, will line up next to Myron Ianni in row 9. And I think we may have one more. Yeah, Jonathan Lund will be alone there in row 20 to complete your grid. So iRacing is going to force the start here in a minute as we wait for the grid to fill up here. And yeah, this is going to be a fascinating racer on this course. Very well suited to these radicals, and that love-hate relationship with those curves that you mentioned, especially Variante Alta. It is non-optional. You have got to launch that radical across both of those curves, wait for it to settle, and put the hammer down as quick as you can to get down that back straightaway into Ravazza. So it's a roll of the dice on each and every lap here at Imola, and it'll be fascinating to watch how it unfolds. And I hear some engines revving up there. The lights must be up. We're going to get underway here in a second. That is Avani to your right there in the number 10 car. And he will have the inside run into the initial corner here. That is turn 2, actually, the first of the 3-corner combination at Tamburello. And we are underway. It's Avani from Lipp, from James Barry. It looks like Barron sniffing around Barry a little bit on the outside here. And Avani is going to hang on to P1, always fraught with peril here on ice cold tires. Oh, and somebody is off on the inside. We'll get back to whoever that was. I think it's Nagel and Franco Sanchez got tied up there in Tamburello, where they're sliding down the leaderboard like they're tied with lead weights. But it's Avani from Lipp, from Barry, from Barron, from Friedrich as we head into Tosa for the first time.
Yeah, I actually looked at it as soon as it happened. It was actually contact involving Rudolf Nagel and Andreas Friedrich as they headed their way off through the Tamburello chicane. Very important to nail that down all throughout this race, but especially at the start when these drivers are packed in so much. Drivers already making up some moves. You look at Simon Sykes in the number 8 car. We've seen him sporadically race here in the Radical Esports Cup Official Series. Sykes, a past champion, the American Open wheel side of things. I believe won the championship a few seasons ago in USF 2000 competition. So nice to see him out here on the racetrack, running strong at the moment in P6. Made up some moves in the early stages, but has lost down some time as the top 4 have broken off and has started to drive off into the sunset as we complete lap 1.
Yeah, and Avani looking good here early. He's developed a pretty decent gap behind to Sebastian Lipp, but of course we talk about it every track where there is a long straightaway, and there's certainly a long one here as we're getting onto that pit straight at Imola. You can watch that slipstream effect go to work as those cars will get sucked together, and train forming up front. That's Avani from Lipp, from Barry, from Berend, and on our replay screen there is that contact involving Rudolf Nagel, and a couple of cars lost their qualifying. Oh my goodness! And who was that? Was that Sebastian Lipp getting too much curb there? And they called those high anti-cut curbs sleeping policemen in some places over in Europe, and that was Lipp busted right there.
See, I usually like to call them the overcooked sausage curves because much like an overcooked sausage, you can chip your teeth on both. And Sebastian Lipp did have a smooth run heading off through there in the slightest. It was off through the Tamburello chicane, got a little bit squirrely. That's one more thing to raise about the chicanes. Many sections of this track are rather momentum-based, for lack of a better term. If you have a bad run off through the first part, really got to doom you in the second. That's exactly what happened to Sebastian Lipp. He ran wide off in the first part of that Tamburello chicane, and then heading off into the second part, had nothing that he could have done to avoid running off into the curbs, whacking them pretty badly, giving a test to his suspension, a test to his spine as well. Pretty bad whack heading all through that Tamburello chicane, cost him some time. He now slips back behind his teammate of James Barry after coming so close to the championship last season. Didn't show up for the first 2 weeks in these 2100 GMT broadcasted races, but he's back here at the present moment. Been a little while since we've seen him come into victory lane in these broadcasted Radical SR10 races, so let's keep an eye on him. Currently slotted in P2, has a bit of a mountain to climb with himself in a Vanny, but that is by no means insurmountable.
My goodness, and there is some contact. Jarrett Dunkovich getting collected rather by somebody abusing those overcooked sausage curbs that Ron was talking about, and more trouble there. And Sebastian Lip, things go from bad to worse in Tamburello. He hits those outside sausage curbs again, as you see somebody going through the kitty litter there. And this is not the way Sebastian wanted this race to begin. He had trouble there early and repeated the same mistake twice. Very unusual for Sebastian there, but it's so tempting to go into that entry of Tamburello hot, and if you overcook that entry, that is the result right there. You kind of want to go in easy, put the hammer down, and make a quick exit there. And Sebastian Lip is all the way down to P16.
And as we saw Sebastian Lip go off the racetrack, there's another moment down into the Tamburello chicane as Michele Brunolini was actually involved in an incident with Rafa Blanco down into the turn. Unfortunate moment for the both of them. They went off into the gravel trap. Nothing too majorly lost out there, but still could have been a little bit better heading off to that part of the racetrack. As we take a look at this battle involving Gillen Barron, their winner last time out at the Nordschleife, and Simon Sykes. Sykes, very quick whenever he's shown up in these races. I think the last time we saw him was at Fuji back in season 3, so it has been a little bit of time since we saw the driver of the number 8 car visit these Radical SR10s, but nice to see him out here on the racetrack. As I said a few moments ago, accomplished beyond the wheel of open wheel cars in real life, and looking to do well here in sports cars in the sim.
And with Lip out of it now, it's Ivani from Barry from Friedrich up front, and quite a gap actually, even from Barry back to Friedrich. And Sykes also trying his luck on those outside sausage curbs on turn 2 there, and very unusual to see so many errors right there. You really want to kind of take it easy on the entry, as I said, to get a good exit, but these drivers beating the hell out of those sausage curbs. And I'll tell you what, to our producer Ramiro, that camera angle, the low angle at Variante Alta was awesome. That is my new favorite camera, and you can wear that one out if you would like to continue showing that. That was incredible, seeing these SR10s bouncing over those curves.
Yeah, some absolutely amazing camera angles here on RaceSpotTV, and an amazing amount of curb whacking, despite the fact that these cars don't respond to the curbs too well. If you hit them badly at high speeds, that front splitter going to get disturbed in its relationship to the ground, and you're just going to spear off the track like nobody's business. But the weight transfer as well in these cars doesn't really lend itself to anything like that. As you can see all those racers slamming into the curbs. It's like I'm watching a kart race with the drivers slamming into the curbs and getting all four up off the deck. Certainly not doing that here in these SR10s, at least for the most part. As we look at Simon Sykes, proving me wrong very briefly off through that section. These drivers have no fear.
Yeah, absolutely epic stuff. And of course, this is a fixed setup series, the Radical Esports Cup. So those of you who want to get in there and tamper with the spring rates, maybe try some different dampers, you can't do it. You got to eat what they feed you here. And some of these drivers might want a little bit more compliance in the suspension for having to hit those double curbs every time around. It is high risk every time around, but it is not optional to get a quick lap here at Imola. And look at Ivani and Barry. They have driven off up front. Currently taking a look at another little train here. That is Barron leading Sykes, Buckley, and Caruso. All those cars packed together, and these cars breaking up into some little trains, as these draft heavy tracks tend to do.
Yes, I have a small little smattering of race cars. I wouldn't say it's a 6-car trade, more so a 3 and 3 pack that we've got at the present moment. You clump them together, though, you got a 6-pack of SR10s, and these drivers looking to have a party as we're now a third of the way through this race. These drivers battling is going to allow those racers a little bit farther up the road to give themselves a little bit of a comfort zone as we get a little bit later on in this race. Peter Vanni and James Berry holding on to a pretty comfortable gap as they're not going side by side up at the front. Screw comfort. I want the race lead, says Berry, and he's got to try and get it done around the outside, off into the final few turns. Berry looking to throw everything, including the kitchen sink at it, to jump into the race lead around the outside through Avata, and he gets it done over Peter Vanni. Nicely played from Berry.
Yeah, Barry didn't see how that started, but Barry clearly had a good drive out of Variante Alta. They go side by side through Ravazza. You don't see that very often. And here we go. Avani is going to peek around the outside of the entry to Tamburello. That's the danger zone that we saw a couple of fat lips happen right there. Barry holds him off for the time being. Things getting racy here up front, though. And Avani, a newcomer to me. I'm sure you've seen it before, Ron, but Avani showing some pace and some racecraft in dealing with the multiple past champion James Berry.
Yeah, Peter Vanni, I've actually seen his name sporadically in my time covering Radicals, which ran about in tow with us. I know there was a brief little period of time where I'd only pop in to do some of these shows occasionally as I auditioned off to be a part of the Will Rogers Follies. But Vanni, he's showed up in these SR10s before. He's a good racer, but James Berry, as you just said, a multi-time past champion, a 4-time champion, in fact, won championships in twice in Season 4 competition. It was 2023 Season 4, where he won his first, and 2024 Season 4, where he won his fourth. He's a quick racer in these SR10s. Season 4 seems to be a bit of a happy hunting ground for him, and after, for lack of a better term, a little bit of disappointment from last season, was in it to win it, and just didn't really come out of it. I think he ended that season that we just went through in Season 3 third in the championship points at the end of it all. Not a bad result at all. James Berry, a very good racer in these SR10s, but I'm sure there's a little voice in the back of his mind saying, try and go for a championship, try and get it done. And if he can get this win done, that would help him out quite a lot. Berry, top competitor in these SR10s, even on the Radical European Championship that we broadcast here on RaceSpot. JR, you're the usual commentator on those shows, and he's pretty good in those. Actually won the 2024 Radical European Championship. So he enters that season as a reigning champion, multi-time champion here in these officials. Berry, super quick in these SR10s.
Yeah, the championship is always in the back of James Berry's mind. He works hard to come up with this pace. It is not easy to wheel these Radicals at the pointy end of this field. There are some gaudy I ratings out here, and for Berry to lead the likes of Ivani, Friedrich, Barron, Sanchez, Solly Reitman, it is a who's who of the Radical community that show up here at our 2100 GMT broadcasts, and Berry showing right now why he is the multiple past champion. And we're taking a look at Gillum Barron right now. He's got a small gap ahead to Sykes, and he has Franco Sanchez behind. And my experience covering Sanchez, you got to keep an eye on him. If he sees a sliver of light, he is going to stuff that SR10 down in there, and that has got to be on Barron's mind.
Yeah, I'm sure that probably is. You look at those racers all running around him, and he's going to be feeling a little bit nervous throughout the rest of this race as we see Jonathan Lund with a moment. It's himself and Rafa Blanco coming to blows all through the Tamburello chicane. Unfortunate there for Lund, as he had Blanco on the inside of him. It kind of spooked him a little bit wide, and similar to the moment that we saw from Andres, actually no, Sebastian Lipp, my apologies, a little bit earlier on in this race. Lightning striking twice in the same part of the track. That Tamburello chicane can be super, super treacherous, as look at those racers really cutting shapes. Barron and Sykes chasing each other's tails as they head their way down into Tamburello.
Yeah, and very surprised to see all those impacts that are at the Tamburello chicane. That one of our very fast drivers, Lip, hit it twice. We've seen a couple of incidents right there, and my gosh, maybe they need to put up a warning sign there, but you have absolutely got to stay off of those. These Radicals are going very fast right there. The right side of the car completely loaded up, and those sausage curbs are not going to do them any favors, as we've seen already here repeatedly.
Yeah, those overcooked sausage curbs About as scrumptious as you can imagine with the name. These racers not going to want to have a bite of them as long as they can manage the anti-cut curbs as you head your way off through Variante Alta. I mean, you see it in Formula One. It's an open wheel car. They don't like the curbs. But whenever F1 raced here, it's kind of sad to say raced in the past tense. I would love to see Imola return to the F1 calendar. It's just an absolutely wonderful track. But the F1 drivers would have to go through that section just clobbering the curbs as if it's nobody's business, because really that section of racetrack is so apocalyptically tight. I think there are alleyways in the middle of New York City that are less tight than that chicane is in a race car. So heading your way off through there, you gotta straighten it up as quickly as you can and as much as you can. So clobbering those curbs is basically the only option. These cars don't like the curbs too much, but it's a cooperative relationship that the drivers, the cars, and the curbs have to have, heading your way off through the rest of the racetrack. Now, for through that part of the track, the rest of the track, on the other hand, it's the drivers basically have to file restraining order against those curbs.
Yeah, too right. And as we take a look at Barry and Ivani, Ron, look who has caught up to those two and is now sniffing around behind. That is James Barry's teammate. Andreas Friedrich has Ivani down to less than a 1 second gap right now. If he can reel that in just a little bit, that slipstream is going to suck him right up with Barry and Ivani. And I'm sure that would make James Barry very pleased for Ivani to have something else to do other than badger him, worrying about Friedrich coming up behind, as we're just about to complete lap 9 out of 15 laps, ticking by very, very quickly here. And so far, Ivani showing some patience, maybe biding his time to make a move down the stretch. But if he waits too long, he's going to have Friedrich joining him at a time that he doesn't want.
Oh, I think Friedrich is very much so there. He's broken through into that drafting range of the two cars right in front, and now Peter Ivani finds himself in the midst of an inert team sandwich. You've got James Barry and Andreas Friedrich, both incredibly talented racers here in these SR10s. Venerated racers as well, who have been driving in these cars just about as long as I've been commentating on them. Friedrich, very quick racer. He's got to look to try and pounce after a little bit of heartbreak a little bit earlier on, as Ivani knows that his time is running out. He looks for the move around the outside on Barry off into the Tamburello chicane. He thought better of it, though. I think that's a good call from Ivani. As much as the pressure is really getting ramped up in this battle for those podium spots, you got to pick and choose when you go for that move. You can throw haymakers at any given opportunity, but if you punch a nun, you're going to get kicked out of the church.
Yeah, no doubt. And I'll tell you, I was initially wondering if Barry might have been lifting a little bit to push Ivani back into his teammate. But to the contrary, Andreas Friedrich has absolutely lit the wick. He has about a half a second of pace in regards to his fast lap on both Ivani and Barry. So Friedrich finding some pace here down the stretch. And again, this is exactly what James Barry needs, is Andreas Friedrich filling up the mirrors of Peter Ivani.
Yeah, so as we continue to see this battling up at the front, the pressure is just creeping up more and more and more and more as laps continue to tick away. And all that battling, we have lost sight of some of the battling a little bit farther behind. That is still rather intense. Simon Sykes leading that train of cars that occupies the rest of the top 10. You can see really that stretches all the way back to Sally Wright and slot in P7 in the number 13 car. Heinz Braun has lost out on a little bit of time in that pack, but he still has an opportunity to maybe reel them in come time for a little bit later on in this race. Awesome work there, Ramiro, with the split screen, so we can see all this battling. The battling up in the front, insane. The battling a little bit farther behind, insane as well. Everybody wants to get some good bragging rights, and we got a lot of talent all throughout this field, including this battle for the positions outside of the podium. Simon Sykes, as I said a little bit earlier on in the show, the 2023 USF 2000 champion, top running racer in the American Open wheel ladder in the past. William Barron, your race winner last time out, the Nordschleife, which is not a very easy track to tame. Franco Sanchez Buckley, a past winner in the Radical Americas season, hasn't raced too much in the SR10s here this year, as Ivani and Barry battling for the race lead off into Toza, and Ivani gets it done.
Wow, and Ivani sticking that one through there. He may have caught Barry unaware there as he sticks it down the inside of Tosa. That's the slowest corner here at Imola, but has he pulled the trigger too soon? There's 5 laps remaining here, and Barry is going to have multiple opportunities to get Avani back before this one is over. So Barry, very calculated, very calm, and very rational when he wheels these radicals. I've called him the little professor before, and he's not sweating what's happening right now. He is just calculating what his next best move is and when to execute that. And actually, he may kind of be in the catbird seat right now, Ron, riding in P2 down the stretch.
Yeah, I think the fate of how this race shakes out, who's going to visit victory lane, this 3rd race of this season 4 season, is going to be whether or not Andres Friedrich decides to give a bit of a headache and be a bit of a thorn in the side to his teammate as Barry looks again around the outside, down into the Tamburello chicane. Bad last late breakers, not even going to have to worry about that as Barry clears Avani. Goes a little bit deep, though, into the turn, and all through 3, going to have a bit of a poor run, bit of momentum from Avani right behind. He's got to look to fight back yet again in that number 10 car. He looks down the inside off into the Villeneuve chicane, not going to be able to make it work, but Andres Friedrich really has a good he's got to be the one that maybe decides how this all works out. Even though Barry and Avani are the ones that are throwing haymakers at each other, Andres Friedrich can dictate whether or not Barry has to worry about both his teammates and his competitor of Avani, or whether or not it's just going to be those two duking it out as Andres Friedrich stays behind and acts as rear gunner to make sure that at the very least one of the inert cars finishes this race with the top step on the podium.
My goodness, and heading down into Aqua Minerale, look at Avani showing his nose there around the outside as Barry goes defensive. If there was a pass there, I would just write that down as the move of the year in Radical Esports Cup, but Avani just with a little head fake right there. And quick shout out to Sauli Reitinen. He has been pedaling hard run. He has caught that trio of Sykes, Barron, and Buckley. He had been leading Braun and Caruso kind of in the second trio, but it is tough when you're on your own, not benefiting from the draft, to shade those gaps down, and Reitinen has done it. And speaking of gaps, look at the gap between Sykes and Friedrich. That is now under a second. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars with about a half-second gap between, and Reitinen trying hard to join that train as well. Barry so far leading. We're on lap 13 of 15, 3 to go. It's Barry from Avani, from Friedrich, from Sykes, from Barron is your top 5.
And now Simon Sykes gets involved in this battle on that number 8 car. I wonder exactly how he's going to tackle it. We saw him cutting some shapes a little bit earlier on in this race. Would not be too shocked if we see it yet again, as I think there may have been some drama a little bit farther behind for, I'm not sure if it's Michelle or Michele Bonalumi, but either way, the driver of the number 18 car running into some difficulties and getting struck by a falling anvil. They've now come down pit lane, and I think in that battling for P10 that has been left behind with 3 inert cars involved in all of it. You look at that. That's Sebastian Lip, George Gonzaga, and a lot of inert drivers all involved in that. Own a little scrap, and Mehmet Barrett in the midst of all of that, and Myron Ianni, who I think he may be a new member of inert. I have seen him run in these SR10s for quite some time, but I don't remember seeing him in that inert car. I was thinking, who is that in that the very striking insert name e-racing team car there with the blue accents? I was like, who is that? So I guess Myron Ianni may be a part of that Radical SR10 super team that we really have here.
Yeah, pretty soon we're going to call this the Radical Esports Inert Racing Cup, as more and more cars are showing up with that striking livery. And here we are riding along with James Barry, looking back at Avani with a headlight flash, just in case Barry forgot he was back there. Obviously he didn't, but look at that slipstream go to work as Avani chips that gap down to 1/10, and it's Barry from Avani, from Friedrich, Simon Sykes right there too. That's a 4-car train that's developed up front, and on the penultimate lap right now. And what is Avani gonna do? You know that he has a plan in mind. You know that he has got a strategy, and we'll just have to wait and see whether he can execute it and whether it's successful. But great racing here at Imola, and man, oh man, these Radicals always do so well run at these old F1 tracks.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's always in the air whenever we head to an old Formula One track. You got a lot of drafting around here. You also got the tiny twisties that keeps these drivers honest. You know, they can be involved in the drafting trains. They can stay closely knit together, but at the same time, you do have to worry about actually running around and mastering these cars. As he said a little bit earlier on in the show, JR, fixed setups here in the Radical Esports Cup, so these racers don't have the benefit of finely tuned and crafted setups to make them a little bit quicker. It is all down to driver skill. It's all down to driver comfort. And here at this racetrack, comfort can really help you out a lot. As look at, speaking of comfort, look at those racers just clobbering the curbs all through Variante Alta. I will say though, as they head their way out of Ravata for the second to last time, the white flag going to be in the air with James Berry punching that hole in the air and holding on to nearly half a second gap between himself and Peter Avani. If Berry can go through this lap and just maintain that gap, it may be really a battle for P2, P3, and P4 instead of a battle for P1.
Yeah, Barry looking good here. And here's Friedrich. He's going to try the outside of Tamburello side by side as they exit Tamburello. That's Friedrich and Ivani Friedrich almost getting it done here. And Simon Sykes now sniffing around. He wants a part of this. And that is exactly what Barry wants to see. Look at Friedrich. You knew that he was going to make a move there. Friedrich had lit the wick earlier to catch this train. Friedrich around the outside of Tosa. Friedrich, can he put the power down side by side with Ivani? With Sykes right behind and Barry driving away with a smile on his face. 2-second gap behind to P2, and the battle for P2 rages on.
Yeah, it's now a battle for third with Simon Sykes diving down the inside of Peter Avani as they headed their way off into turn number 8 of Piratella. Well done from Sykes to jump his way up into the final podium spot. The driver of the 8 car getting the move done into turn number 8. The battling is still not over yet. I think he smells blood in the water and maybe wants to go for a move. He's going to go for a move off into the chicane. That's some gutsy stuff. Bad curb whack there from the all of them. And now you look at the likes of Franco Sanchez, Buckley, and Barron a little bit further behind these racers as well. Reinen may have a shot at gaining some spots in case these drivers come to blows, but as they head their way off into Ravata, James Berry gonna be tasting the champagne with the surefire win, but the drivers battling for the final podium spot. It is still duking it out. Oh!
Goes Sykes. Sykes is turned by Ivani, and there goes James Berry to take the checker as Mayhem
and
breaks out behind him.
Third.
In Ravata, and Sally Raitinen may have pulled out the P3 there. My timing tower is jumping all over the place, but I told you that Raitinen was working hard to catch that second trio of cars. The wheels fell off of all of those competitors, and watch Raitinen here in the blue car. He's like, woohoo, Christmas in October, dodging the flaming barrels, and Reitman laughing his way all the way up to the third step of the podium. Previous to that, he had to have been running at about P7, Ron. And holy cow, sometimes you take and sometimes the race comes right to you, and Reitman sitting pretty in P3.
The racing gods giveth and the racing gods taketh away, and as James Berry burns it down with a 2-second gap at the end of this race, that battling at the end was just pure unbridled madness. Sally Reinen came out of all that smelling like a bed of roses. Incredible stuff there. I mean, it was disaster heading off through Ravata, don't get me wrong, for those racers involved in the drama, and very unfortunate for Peter Avani to lose out on a podium right at the end. But Sally Reinen, that proves that in these races, if you don't give up, if you stay with it throughout the entirety of the race, you can still come out with a very good result. Ryan improving as he rounds out the podium in third.
And I expected parts of this to be a little bit messy here at Imola, and the mess exploded on the last lap, coming out of Ravazza onto the pit straight for the last time. That was wild stuff. And how did Ivani escape as he did? That was wild. But anyway, it's James Berry from Andreas Friedrich from Sally Reitnen is your podium. Peter Ivani attacked throughout that 15-lap race, falls from P1 down to P4, and could have been a lot worse from that action that you saw. The mayhem coming out of Ravazza. Then it's Franco Sanchez in P5, Heinz Braun in P6, Paki Caruso will come in 7th, Sebastian Lipp with a very decent recovery drive after a couple errors there in Tamburello. Then it's Mehmet Akas and George Gonzaga rounding out your top 10. And that will take us to Myron Ianni in that brand new inert racing car in P11. Then it's Gillum Barron, Rudolf Nagel, Jarrett Dunkovich, and Simon Sykes rounding out the top 15. Then it is Pasavento, Jonathan Lund, Michele Bonalumi, apologies to Michele or Michelle, however you pronounce that, and Rafa Blanco kind of threw in the towel early, will finish in 19th, several laps down. Holy cow, Ron, what a fantastic race. It is always a pleasure to come in here and cover for Ewan when he has other stuff going on, and very pleased and fortunate to have joined you for this one. And let's go ahead and bring in the little professor himself, James Berry. And James, what a fantastic drive today. And you kind of took the Berry approach. You did what you needed to do when you needed to do it, and managed to hold on for P1 with a little help from your friend Andreas Friedrich behind. So how did that one unfold from your seat?
Super happy with that. After, last season I was like thinking, I want to try and win a championship, and I didn't even win a race all season, and now I just came back after a couple of weeks off, and straight away. I mean, just so happy, and I just knew I had to fight. I had to fight. Well, I had to fight to get past Sebastian at the start. It was kind of a shame to see what happened to him in the end, but had to do what I had to do, and then just chase after Peter, put him under pressure, and then just fight for my position, because it's a track where you're able to do that, just about hold on to your position if you've got a little bit of a gap. And just super fun race, super happy.
Well, I'll tell you, my observation of that gap, it sure looked like you had mastery of that second set of chicanes Variante Alta. You were getting through there very, very well. And whenever Avani was close to you, that's where you would add a couple tenths and pull away from him and kind of protect yourself down the pit straight. So really, really masterful job, mastery of Imola, which is a very difficult circuit. And really, James, congratulations. Fantastic stuff to watch. And as we wrap up here, is there anyone you would like to thank or give a shout out to today?
Yeah, I'll just say what I put in a message in the Discord before the race, just seeing how many signups there was. Last time we were at this track, we had 24 drivers. I remember that quite well because it didn't split. And today we had like 58 or 60 or something. So that's obviously really positive for the series. And shout out, I think we're still, on the iRacing channel with RaceSpot, obviously. So just shout out to everyone involved in putting that together, because we really appreciate, being in the spotlight to an extent. And obviously to you guys as well. Just thanks for the show.
Yeah, well, as I said, absolute pleasure to be here. And you heard James, folks. This series is growing. The racing is getting better and better. And I'm here to tell you, these cars are an absolute riot. Go ahead and grab this SR10, do some laps, and I promise you won't be sorry. And as I say, week in and week out, mastery of this Radical SR10 will make you better at every car that you drive. So, James Berry, thank you so much for stopping in to chat with us. And congratulations again on a phenomenal drive at Imola.
Yeah, thank you guys. See you next time.
All right, and looking around outside, it's a little empty, Ron, out there in the waiting room, kind of uncharacteristically. So I think that is going to wrap up our interviews. And don't forget, folks, we are here, as I said, every Friday, 2100 GMT. We broadcast the top split of the Radical Esports Cup. And next week, we'll see our Radical Warriors head stateside to conquer Detroit's rough and tumble raceway at Belle Isle Park. And that one is going to be epic. You are not going to want to miss that. So, folks, thank you so much for joining us for today's broadcast of Week 3 of 2025 Season 4 of the Radical Esports Cup. I am J.R. Gregory on behalf of myself, my partner, Racing Ron Mons, our producer, Ramiro Cisneros, and everyone here at RaceSpotTV. Have a great Friday and an even better weekend.